Year two, week two. Week two.
It's week 2, yeah, no, and we're live now. Week 2 of the NFL was just another weird week of some matchups that were okay, some matchups that were a lot of people probably didn't pick right. I can name at least 3 offhand. Once again, though, injuries are starting to pile up again, which sucks. It's the unfortunate thing about the NFL is that the way they've made with the player agreement and all that, they barely practice.
Right.
So it's like you're sitting there and you're like, how are these guys getting hurt? It's because they don't keep themselves conditioned.
Right.
And when they get hit and stuff, I mean, you hate to see it, but like Carson Wentz, Tua, but then again, they get hurt all the time. It's not like, it's not like it's a crazy thing, but it's sad to see it because, both those teams are different without those guys at quarterback. And it's just we'll see going forward. But yeah, it was a crazy week. I know both of us are happy. Both of our teams came out with victories, which was nice. I would think yours was more expected than mine.
Right.
I was while watching the Raiders game, I was waiting for the other shoe to fall, but it never did. Which is nice. So how was your week leading up to today? Good?
Oh yeah, it's been a good week. It was a great weekend. Like you said, the Packers got the dub, and I think it was not really a huge win. It wasn't a monumental win, but it was a good win for the first win of the season. So and Ducks won.
Get that first one out of the way. Yeah. Were you able to watch the whole game or no?
Yeah, I watched every bit of the game except for the first drive. So the only play of the first drive that I saw was when Quintez Cephas caught the touchdown pass. That was the only play I saw from the whole first drive. And then I watched the whole game up until 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. We already had such a big lead. I went to bed. I had work at 5 this morning. So
yeah, no, that's why I was asking, because I know you work early. So, but no, like I said, it was a good week. It was fun. Like I said, there was some weird ones, but there was also some ones that were just like in the scoring too. Like some games you thought were going to be big scoring games, and some games were just That's what I love about the NFL, but I also hate it too from a gambling standpoint because you can never, get it right or anything like that. It's
hard to gamble NFL for sure.
Yeah, it's getting worse and worse every week. It really is. It's like we'll go through it and we'll get to it. But, like I said to most people, like we always said, we're going to cover the Raiders and the Packers about middle of the road. Probably after we get done with the 1 o'clock games, we'll go to the Raiders and the Packers and talk about that. The Thursday night game, once again, these primetime games are living up to they're all good games. I mean, it's 100%. Thursday was good game. Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night. Monday night was the biggest disappointment in the blowout, but it was a close game up until the first half.
Yeah, and I know we didn't really talk about Thursday night, but just for a little bit, Washington beat the Giants 30-29. The Giants made a bunch of mistakes. That's why Washington won the game. Taylor Heineke didn't look bad. Washington's defense looked pretty good despite giving up almost 30 points. Pretty solid game.
Jones, I mean, I know people are ragging on him, but Jones didn't look terrible.
No, he didn't.
He wasn't that bad.
He ran the ball really good. He threw the ball pretty decent. So
to me, it's the Saquon Barkley factor. He is just not the same.
Yeah,
and it's sad because with Saquon Barkley, he was a difference maker. I don't know if he really is anymore.
Right.
But the other thing too is that you look at the Giants receiving group, and it's like, do they really need Barkley? And it's also like, if Jones doesn't succeed with this group of guys, they move on maybe as close as next year. You know, because that group is not bad. Sterling is good. Slayton is good. Galladay is paid to be a number one. I don't know if he's a true number one. Yeah. It's just it's going to be interesting to see what the Giants do, because more than likely they're going to be competitive in all their games, but I don't think they're going to win many.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. First game of the Sunday that we had was Denver going into Jacksonville and beating Jacksonville 23-13. Cortland Sutton had himself a good game. And Teddy Bridgewater was effective. But Jacksonville still is just struggling. And To me, it seems like it's Sunshine, as I call him sometimes, Lawrence. He is struggling. He's thrown 5 picks in the last 2 games. But last year Robinson was playing so well, and now he's not really doing that great.
Right.
I think it was more or less, if Denver lost this game, it would have been a big thing. But Jacksonville's going to win some games, but I don't think many, honestly. I think they're going to be picking number 1 again.
So before I get into my notes, there's some comments. Big Tuna is wearing Randy Moss. Number 9 was my number in high school. It's a custom jersey with my name on it, so it's not a specific Packers player.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I'm wearing a Randy Moss jersey. Yeah. It's sad because not many people loved Randy Moss as a Raider, but Randy Moss was one of my favorite players of all time. So,
but yeah, I mean, this game was it was kind of interesting at the beginning. T-Law did look pretty sharp. He's going to have a lot of eyes on him throughout the entire season. Right, he's the number 1 pick. People are saying he's the greatest prospect since Peyton Manning. I think he's going to have a lot of growing pains, but I do think he's going to be a really good player throughout his career. But he was sharp out the gate. Just continued to struggle a little bit. He has so much growing room or learning room, whatever you want to call it, that it's okay that he's not doing great right now. I'll give him that for the moment. The Broncos, like I said, they were a little slow to start, but they picked it up late in the first half and ended up doing really good. Their defense came to play like usual, only letting them score 13 points. I think actually they let them score 1 offensive touchdown. The other touchdown was a defensive touchdown or a punt return, right?
I believe so. Let me see here. Kick return. It was a kick return.
So this Denver defense only allowed 1 touchdown the entire game. That's pretty good. Teddy B continues to do pretty good. I mean, he's looking good right now. The Broncos, I think they can make the playoffs as a wild card team. Jaguars, I think you're right about the Jaguars, though. They're probably going to end up picking number 1 again.
Yeah, and then you know what? That's okay. Sometimes teams just have to start over again, but it seems like it's been like that for Jacksonville the last ever how many years, except for that 1 year when they had that where they had Saxonville.
Right.
One thing from the injury front is that Bradley Chubb did get hurt. But Von Miller got himself another sack, so he's at 13. He's at 3 now. And the rookie Patrick Surtain Jr. got himself an interception, which was nice. But yeah, Teddy Bridgewater just being efficient as he can. And like I said, Cortland Sutton had himself a day, and he's stepping up with the injury to Jerry Jeudy there. But yeah, not much more to say except for Denver did what they should have done. And Jacksonville is just going to be one of those teams that's going to surprise some teams, like that happens.
Yeah, they'll get some shocking wins here and there, but yeah, I think
some good games.
Yeah, I think whenever you look at Teddy Bridgewater last season, he didn't have a great year for the Panthers. I kept saying I think this guy is a good quarterback, and same thing happened with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was having a bad year with the Jets, and I said this guy's a good quarterback. Darnold's on the Panthers now; he's doing his thing. Teddy Bridgewater's on the Broncos now, and they're doing this thing. Sometimes it's just about the fit. Sometimes you're a good player on a decent team. You're just not getting things going because it's a bad fit. You move on, you find a better fit, and you end up doing better. That's what's happening with Teddy Bridgewater now.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100%. Moving on to a game that kind of got thrown into the grinder right in the beginning was the Bills beat the Dolphins 35-0. But the big story out of that was that Tua got hurt again. They're saying it's a rib injury. From everything that I'm reading and from what people are saying, if he can walk, he's going to play.
Right.
Versus the Raiders. But playing with broken ribs, as you can ask Drew Brees, is really, really tough to do. But the Bills needed to do this.
Agreed.
They needed to kick the shit out of somebody because – honestly, they came out against the Steelers and were soft.
Right, I agree. Well, and the thing about this game is that I predicted them to win against the Steelers, which didn't happen. And I actually did predict them to win against the Dolphins. I thought it was going to be a much closer game. Now, granted, Tua did get hurt, but this was a clear mismatch from the beginning, even before Tua got hurt. They ran all over this Dolphins defense. Tua was pressured early, caused him to get hurt. Brissett, I don't think Brissett's a bad backup quarterback. He's actually a really good backup quarterback in my eyes. He just wasn't enough or I guess not last night, but the other night. It just wasn't enough for the Dolphins. I don't think it was never going to be a close game ever.
No, and I hate to say that because it's like the Bills needed to have this game. They needed to come out and they needed to dominate. Looking at the Dolphins, the only bright spot that I saw was that Xavier Howard gets himself another interception, and Jalen Waddle is not doing a bad job. And
he might have a really good rookie season in his first
season. I mean, he had a touchdown his first week, and he's the leading receiver this week in catches. It's just that their running game is not that great, but it's not going to be when you're down 35 or whatever to nothing.
And it's hard to run the ball when you're playing from behind.
Yeah, and on the Buffalo side, it's so funny that Zach Moss was in the doghouse one week, and then comes out and scores 2 touchdowns the next week. Which
him and Singletary had really good games, and Josh Allen threw the ball pretty good. But man, this Bills their running game was absolutely awesome on Sunday.
I'm going to say so. I wasn't that impressed with Josh Allen. I think that it was just, he didn't complete he was like 50% completion percentage. Yeah. And Diggs got himself a touchdown, but I don't know. It's just that Josh Allen, he's going to turn it around like he always does. But I think he's
played out decent this first 2 games of the season. But I've predicted this guy to be top 3 in the MVP. He hasn't really shown us that yet.
No, but he'll get up there. He'll get up there for sure. I think so. Any other thing about this game? It's just a blowout.
No, not really. Just a blowout. Like you said, the Bills really did need this game, especially after kind of shitting the bed in the second half against the Steelers last week. So,
yeah. We talk about injury with Tua. Another guy that I just feel sick to my stomach about all the time is Tyrod Taylor gets hurt again playing against the Browns, his former team, but he's had like 15 former teams. But he gets hurt, and then the wheels kind of fall off Houston. Before he got hurt, they were competitive with Cleveland.
Right.
And on the Cleveland side, they lost Jarvis Landry, and at one point Baker Mayfield popped his shoulder out. So a nice hard-hitting game between those guys. But the first half was close. After that, Cleveland's sat down and just rode. Bradley or Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I mean, it's just crazy. We talked about this last week. They're just they're the best dynamic duo right now in running in the NFL, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, they continue to work. They're doing a good job. And especially the Browns. I mean, let's be honest. Watching that game after Tyrod Taylor got hurt, it felt more like a blowout than the score was. Now, they did put up 31 points, and they only allowed 21 points. They won by 10 points, but it felt like much more of a blowout. And whenever you watch the Browns, the way that they play the game, they run the ball a lot. They're going to waste a lot of time. Their blowouts are really only going to be 10-point, 15-point games. They're not going to have huge margins of victory. Tyrod Taylor was very good until he got hurt. I agree with you 100%. Absolutely sick to my stomach that he got hurt in this game. But the Texans didn't really look terrible with Davis Mills. I'm a big fan of Davis Mills. As a backup in this league, I don't think that he's ever going to be a franchise quarterback for anyone. He didn't look great. The coaching for the Texans was absolutely terrible. Did you see that thing where it was 3rd and 15 and the Texans got 13 yards on a play? So it was third and 2. Or no, it was third and 15. Then it became 4th and 3, right? And then instead of they accepted the penalty, right, to make it 3rd and 10. Or they could have declined it. I don't remember how it went, but they could have declined it, and it would have been 4th and 3. So either way, they would have either gotten extra down, but been a couple yards back. It would have been 3rd and 10, or they would have been 4th down, but you only have to get 3 yards. Well, they accepted the penalty, or no, they declined the penalty, which made it 4th and 3.
Yeah.
And then they punted it. That was crazy.
I don't understand that. Yeah, that's just a coach, a brand new coach, not knowing what he's doing. Yeah. That's especially, because like you said, the game was not. It was close at some point, and it was just. I've always learned this, that watching games, when you lose your starting quarterback, everything just changes, and it's so crazy how the sideline just falls apart because everybody's got to change everything, and sometimes people make bad decisions when it comes to easy stuff. Because in my opinion, he should decline the penalty, but then go for it.
Right. That's what I would have done too.
The other thing too I wanted to say was that from now that Landry's out, they did say that I think Odell Beckham is coming back this week.
this
So
week.
that's not maybe this week or next week, but if he's not in this week, they've got a lot of no names. Well, not no names. They've got the 3 tight ends. They've got Bryant and Njoku and Hooper. But at tight end, at receiver, they got Higgins. They got Peoples-Jones.
I'm really big on Peoples-Jones. I think he's one of the more underrated receivers in the league today.
But what I was going to get at was that I don't think they'll be in that much trouble because, like you said, they feed off the run so much.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, you need good receivers. Obviously, this is the NFL. It's a passing league.
Yeah.
But if you can run the ball like that, you don't need much better than, Donovan Peoples-Jones. And is it Rashard Higgins, I think, is there?
Rashard Higgins? I think so.
I think that's the guy. But, yeah, I mean, this was a good game for the Browns. And Baker Mayfield, I mean, here's the thing with Baker Mayfield. He did throw the pick. But when you're playing with a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, you expect him to throw a pick every single game. You are give and take when your quarterback is Baker Mayfield. He's aggressive. He's going to throw picks. But guess what? He led this team. I think he ran for a touchdown. I'm not sure if he threw for a touchdown, but he did run for a touchdown, and he led this team to victory. If you're the coach of the Browns or the owner of the Browns, that's all you can ask for. Hey, you're probably going to throw a pick. He's going to throw a pick, but he did lead this team to victory. I was definitely happy with that.
He threw it to one of his backup running backs for I think like a big touchdown.
Oh yeah, it was like one of those like a slip screen type.
Yeah, something like that. Victor Bauer does ask, is Deshaun Watson ever going to come back? They are not dressing him this week on Thursday, even though Tyrod's out. I don't think he's ever going to play for the Texans again. It's just, it's you know what? I mean, you never expect anyone to do nasty shit, but like Deshaun Watson, I was very surprised when I heard his name when it comes to sexual allegations and stuff like that. Like some people, unfortunately, you kind of see like, yeah, he's kind of a predator. Like when Trevor Bauer got all that shit, I was kind of like, he's a douchebag anyway, but still, just a weird circumstance of events.
I think he'll end up playing football again. He'll never play for the Texans.
No, he'll never play.
If he ends up being innocent, I think he'll end up being a starter for some team eventually. Maybe the Dolphins, because that's like his number one team right now.
Yeah, that's the one he wants to go play for. Yeah, and there's not, unfortunately right now there's not many people that need quarterbacks. They've got one in the wings or they've got one that they're happy with.
Right.
Speaking of quarterbacks, another injury. Andy Dalton gets hurt. And we got to see a little bit of Justin Fields, which was nice. He ended up throwing an interception. Right. But the Bears end up beating the Bengals at home, which is expected, but it was a little bit closer than most people think. And it was a boring-ass game. It was 7-3 until it got to the fourth quarter when Chicago scored 13 and Cincinnati scored 17, but poor Joe Burrow throwing 3 picks on 3 throws right in a row. Very, very welcome to the league moment,
Yeah. Well, like you said, this was a pretty boring game, low scoring into the fourth quarter. One thing that I want to point out is this Bears defense, I think, is really, really good. Joe Burrow threw those picks, but the Bears also forced him to throw those picks. They were bringing pressure. They were playing good defense all game. The Bengals did go for the late comeback, like you said. They ended up putting up a lot of points in the fourth quarter, but it just wasn't enough. Not enough time on the clock. A little bit too late. A little too late. Dalton did get hurt early. I think he came back for a little bit and then ended up leaving for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
like that. Justin Fields didn't look really spectacular at all. He did throw the pick. It was just a tough game for Burrow. Like, I know he had a bad game, but he really just wasn't able to work with really anything. Yeah. He had guys in his face all game. It was a tough game for the Bengals and a good game for the Bears, especially for their defense.
One thing I do want to say is that Jamar Chase, he might be a superstar.
He's really good. And he had a rough preseason and a rough camp. He has absolutely shot the first 2 weeks.
It's kind of like it seemed like he was faking everybody out a little bit, because it was like he was bitching about the ball, but then he comes out his first 2 games.
The ball doesn't have stripes. It's harder to see.
Well, he had a 100-yard game, and then he's also has 2 touchdowns already.
Right? Yeah, he's got 2 touchdowns on the year.
But that's, it's just looking at this roster on the offensive side. It just reminds me of a team that just is going to be good in the next couple of years. Maybe not this year. You're going to see flashes of brilliance, but once Burrow gets himself 100% healthy and 100% with his team, because
and they got
I think Boyd. Boyd might be a free agent sooner or later, but like he's got Higgins, he's got Chase,
Yeah.
and he's got Mixon for the next 3 years. All stuff that just exciting stuff. And on the Bears side, I mean, they did say too that Andy Dalton, this is a starter once he's healthy.
Yeah.
And Montgomery did okay, and it wasn't that great of a game. It was just nothing spectacular. Yeah, I mean it wasn't like you said, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing really to write home about.
Just a good win for the Bears, good for their defense, and a tough game for the Bengals. They've got a lot of room to grow, though. I'm excited for this Bengals future.
Yeah. Another game that really wasn't great either was the 49ers at the Eagles. Jalen Hurts was not playing very well until the fourth quarter. Garoppolo and Deebo Samuel had a nice little back and forth there, but it was a defensive game, and those ones unfortunately are boring right now in the NFL. But overall, the 49ers are 2-0. Deebo Samuel is turning into a superstar.
Right.
And it's funny because Greg Kittle is not doing much, and Deebo Samuel seems like he's the one. He's Garoppolo's boy now. It's not like it was before. And they're running the ball with everybody.
Right.
Hasty, Mitchell, Samuel, Sermon, Koscheck, and then who's this Cannon guy? Is he running? Yeah, Trenton Cannon. I mean, it's just they're running by committee, which is just so weird because I couldn't even tell you who would be the starter in the 49ers there. But and Philly kind of came back home, down to where they beat the hell out of the Falcons, but they kind of but I will say this for Philly, and then I'll let you take over. Devontae Smith they're trying to get him the ball. Right. And that's one thing that I like to see is that they're really not worrying about any, what do you want to say, like any training wheels or anything for him. Like he's there to play. Even though he only had 2 catches, they did target him 7 times. So it's like he's got to learn to catch the ball, but a lot of them were long passes. Yeah. And, but I don't know what you saw. So.
Well, I don't think that Jalen Hurts looked too bad. And, I mean, it wasn't a great game for him, but I don't think it was a terrible game that he played the other night. But this young receiving core for the Eagles is looking really good. And Deebo Samuel, obviously, for the 49ers is looking great as well. The big story here, like you said, was the defenses. Both of these defenses played very solid. And I think the score was honestly closer than the game. You see the game. I mean, if you watch, watching the highlights, watching the game, the Eagles did not have very much control of this game at all. San Fran ran the ball very well, like you said, running in committee. They just did a really good job, obviously spreading the wealth. And I think Jimmy G can really make this team a solid team in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you know what? The best thing for San Francisco fans, is that there's a quarterback in weight, and that kind of puts a fire under the other quarterback's ass, and they usually always play better. Aaron Rodgers with Jordan Love, Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers, Trey Lance now with Jimmy Garoppolo, Drew Brees with Phillip Rivers. It does kind of work sometimes. And, Jimmy G's never been flashy, and we know that. But overall, I was impressed with both defenses, honestly, because, Philly took a couple thumps, but they didn't break. But, I just think that the connection between Garoppolo and Deebo Samuel is going to be very good for the rest of the season. I hope so, because I have them on my fantasy team. Yeah. But other than that, I didn't really see anything else that, it's just that you look at the stats for the Eagles, and they had 180 yards passing, and it's like Jalen Reagor, 2 catches, 5 yards. Dallas Goedert, 2 catches, 24 yards. And then you got Quez Watkins, 2 catches, 117.
Reagor only had 5 yards. Who had the touchdown?
The only touchdown they got was Jalen Hurts rushing.
Really?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I thought he hit Reagor on the sideline early.
Remember it was like he caught it. They thought he was in, but he was on like the 1.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next game here, which is going to be the Saints at the Carolina Panthers, got a couple comments here. Victor Bauer says the Bears. Didn't watch the game. The Bears have a great defense. Max helps it shine. Leonard Saley says, hey, guys, just tuning in. If anyone watched, Nate S says, if anyone watched the entire Bengals-Bears game, you thought you died and went to hell because that game was so boring.
I thought that was so funny.
Leonard Saley says, Cincinnati may be a sleeper in this division, may not make the playoffs out of the AFC North, but they're going to be spoilers to teams, which I agree with.
They've got a lot of potential to win some games. So,
and then BRW Whit Mason says we should have put Trey Lance in. People are going to start saying that stuff if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't put up big numbers, and that's just the nature of the game, you know. Moving on to the next game, which one of the ones that probably surprised the hell out of everybody was Carolina beating New Orleans in Carolina, which I don't know if that helps or not, but, you know, Jameis Winston did not look the same at all. Ended up throwing 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, threw for only 111 yards. He was also the leading rusher. Think about that. He was the leading rusher with 19 yards. He had 19 yards. Alvin Kamara had 8 carries for 5 yards. Wow. Let me tell you something. I think the big thing we should talk about is that Sam Darnold is doing very well for himself.
He looks really good, really good.
It's good to have Christian McCaffrey back, and Carolina has a really scary defense that nobody knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. This Panthers defense put so much pressure on Jameis Winston. You look at those picks; those were Aaron Rodgers type picks. And I know that Aaron Rodgers had 2 ugly picks last week, but when you see a pick thrown by Aaron Rodgers, it's usually him trying to force it into a really tight window that he thinks he can make. But those aren't the kind of picks that Jameis Winston was throwing. Those were really ugly passes, and I think one or two of them was caused by pressure. This Carolina defense is really good. Christian McCaffrey, like you said, he's definitely back. And what I really like about the Carolina Panthers is that Christian McCaffrey does not have to carry this team. He's not carrying the entire team on his back this season. Sam Darnold is having a really good year. Obviously, it's only been 2 weeks, but I think Sam Darnold is looking really good right now. And the Carolina Panthers' upcoming schedule looks pretty easy. They could be one of the top teams in the NFC by week 8.
Yeah, I mean, they could be one of the biggest surprises of the whole season if they continue to play like this, because they've got, they got DJ Moore. They've got this kid, Zalstra, who caught a touchdown. They've got Robbie Anderson, who has that big playability. And they've got big number 22. I mean, that's the biggest thing is they've got number 22. And I didn't think he would make this much of a difference. But let's also admit that, Carolina's defense has surprised the hell out of people.
Really good. And J.C. Horn he's really good as well.
Who's that?
J.C. Horn, the corner, the rookie.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes.
And I don't know who else had a pick. I forgot who the other guy who had a pick. But, yeah, this Carolina defense is awesome. Don't forget about Jeremy. He's really good, too.
I'm sorry. Hold on one second. It was Justin Burris, the safety.
Okay.
And, let's talk about New Orleans a little bit. We really got not much to say to them, but, Winston looked horrible, was sacked 4 times. They need Michael Thomas back bad.
I agree.
Because if they're relying on little Jordan Humphrey and Alvin Kamara and Juwan Johnson and Chris Hogan and Marquez Callaway, then, it's – I don't think Jameis Winston is going to get benched or anything. I just think that the Saints just played totally out of character in week 1, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to blow many teams out.
I mean, honestly, it's like Jameis Winston of the old, right? Like Jameis Winston a few years ago is what he kind of looked like. So
yeah, and it sucks because you know what? I mean, you want to cheer for a guy like that who's the number 1 overall pick and goes to another team, earned his spot, which he did. But it's like, dude, like sometimes you just wince because it's like, does he even know how to play the position?
Yeah,
because it's just like he has so much.
So ugly. Oh, those are terrible interceptions.
Yeah, terrible. No, yeah, it's just not good. Next game we're going to look at here, the Rams pull out a 27-24 victory against the Colts. Matthew Stafford looked good again, and Carson Wentz got hurt again. But Matthew Stafford threw for 278, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Henderson and Sony Michel split the carries for a little bit over 100 yards. Cooper Kupp had himself a monster day with 163 and 2 touchdowns. Robert Woods did well. On the defensive side, Leonard Floyd had a sack. A couple other guys had sacks, and on the Indianapolis side, Carson Wentz did okay. Jonathan Taylor did okay. Michael Pittman is starting to turn into a number one receiver more and more now that T.Y. Hilton isn't playing. But like I said, they had a chance to win the game, and Carson Wentz got hurt, and Eason came in and threw a terrible interception where he just sky-mailed it over the guy and Jalen
Ramsey's hands.
Yeah, right into Jalen Ramsey's hands. But, yeah, I mean, it just sucks because Carson Wentz, it just sucks. I hate to say it, but it's like the guy just cannot stay healthy,
Yeah, well, this was a really good game, and I think that injury really robbed us of a great ending to this game. Carson Wentz did have a really good game. I mean, he played great. I don't want to say great. He played fine. He did really good. The O-line definitely needs to step up for the Colts. I mean, the Rams were all up in his grill all day. Cooper Kupp, like you said, awesome game. He is a bad man. 2 touchdowns on the day. I think he has 4 on the year. I think he scored 2 last week as well. But my biggest point with this is the Rams are really good. I think the Rams are a contender. I think they're the 3rd best team in the NFC. Despite this loss, the Colts looked really, really good. This team, I think they can play. They're playing the Titans next week. I think they're going to lose to the Titans. They're going to start 0-3, I think. But I still think that this team can make the playoffs. They are not a bad team. Carson Wentz just has to stay healthy, man. Jacob Eason is his name. Jacob Eason he's not the guy. He's not going to be good for the Colts if he has to start a few games. I just don't think he's that good.
Yeah, no, I mean, as a Georgia fan, Jacob Eason, played a couple years for Georgia, then went to Washington. And I was actually thinking the Raiders might pick him up because there was that quarterback carousel a little bit with Derek Carr. And I was really excited to see him play. But we're going to see what he has next week because I don't think Carson Wentz is playing next week. And that's a huge game. And I hate to say it, but like Colts fans have got to be a little upset. Like this is a huge game for them against Tennessee to see what they got, and they're going to have a backup quarterback in there. Yeah. And I just want to get into too, like Jonathan Taylor. I loved him at Wisconsin, but he's just not. He's not doing it for me. I hate to be that guy, but he's just not doing it for me like he did in Wisconsin. And I know that the Indianapolis offensive line isn't great, but still, like Jonathan Taylor made more out of it, even in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Well, last season he had a pretty good rookie season, but this season he just hasn't picked it up yet. I'd say some time, and I think he's gonna end up having a decent season. He's just got to pick it up and find his way.
Well, they've also got 3 running backs that are capable of being starters. Marlon Mack, Hines, and him. So if he's not getting it done.
Yeah, they've got.
Yeah. I just think, like I said, that division is going to be very interesting. Besides, it's going to be a 2-man race now with Tyrod Taylor being out as forever how long he is. Because if Taylor stayed healthy, it would have been.
I think the Texans would have had a shot.
Yeah, no, and I agree. If he's out for a big 4 or 5 weeks, they might be 0-. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's true. But, I mean, in the Rams, I mean, listen, Matthew Stafford is right now, he is my pick for MVP right now after 2 weeks. So
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no, and it's great to see him. And it's so funny because he was so great with Megatron, and now his favorite receiver is like a foot shorter than what Megatron was, which is just a lot of fun to watch. Last game we're going to get into before we get into the Raiders and the Packers. Zach Wilson had his welcome to the league game where he played against a fucking great defense in the New England Patriots. He throws 4 interceptions. He was sacked 4 times. He threw for 210 yards. They actually ran the ball not bad. The Jets did not run the ball bad, but Zach Wilson had himself a welcome to the league type game. And the Patriots do what they always do. The Jets, they win 25-6. Mac Jones, from the stats here, Mac Jones, nothing crazy, 186. And Harris has turned into a little bit of something, in my opinion. He's good out of the backfield, and he's doing well running the ball. So maybe that's why they got rid of Mykel, because they didn't need him because they have Harris.
Right, and Harris and White both had pretty decent games for the Patriots. They ran the ball great. Mac Jones, like you said, he had a decent game. Nothing crazy, nothing bad, nothing good. But he has a very long way to go. He's going to end up being a really, really good player in the end. Zach Wilson, like you said, he threw 4 really, really ugly picks. He had like 2 overthrows and 2 underthrows.
Yeah.
Really bad game for him. I've never really been high on Zach Wilson. He had a great preseason, a pretty good week 1. I just don't think this guy is it. I still don't think he's it. This game, I think, kind of exposed that a little bit, especially, obviously you're playing the Patriots, and even though the Patriots aren't as good now as they were, say, 5-10 years ago, right? But you're still playing against Bill Belichick and that great, defensive-minded coach. Great game for the Patriots, man. Great game.
It's funny how they don't have I'm pretty sure Gilmore did not play, and they still had 4 picks. Let me see here. I'm pretty sure Gilmore is out for a while, but let me double check here. Yeah, they had interception from McCourty. They had 2 from Joshua Jackson and 1 from Phillips. But it was a tough day for the Jets, and let's be honest here. They've got some decent talent. I really am a big fan of Corey Davis. I've always loved Tevin. I've always liked Tevin Coleman too, but he's just a little bit older now. And I've always loved Braxton Berrios, just because I always looked at him and thought Wes Welker, and he's been actually one of Zach Wilson's best targets. He was targeted 11 times, caught 7 balls for 73 yards. But I think the Jets, unfortunately, might be competitive in some games, but they're going to be fighting for that number 1 overall pick, with the Jaguars.
They have a really long way to go, for sure.
Yeah, no, they do, and it sucks because it's like, it's just a weird – I just don't know what the Jets are thinking ever, and it's like, they've got so much. They just don't know what to do when it comes to personnel. I mean, it's like
I like Robert Saleh. I think he's going to end up being a good coach for the Jets. I think he's going to turn this thing around. But the Jets, if they're going to turn this thing around, they got to hold on to Robert Saleh for a while, because it's going to be a while before he can turn it around.
He is a brand new coach. It's just the decisions they make. And, I got CJ Mosley actually did finally play, but like guys like that where they're giving them huge amounts of money, and it's like, that's not how you win. You may win it through drafts and stuff like that. And just like you said, I'm not a big fan of Zach Wilson, and I don't think he's going to be that great, but you had to give him more than 2 years like they've been doing to most quarterbacks. Give him some fucking time.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you gave Sam Darnold what? They gave him 2 or 3 years? But if you gave him
the same draft class as Baker, he played 3 years. That's
three. Okay, but here's the thing: if you gave him Corey Davis, he probably would have been a little bit better. And if he kept Robbie Anderson,
wasn't bad. He wasn't bad with Robbie Anderson whenever they were both on.
That's what I'm saying. It's just I don't know. It's just that's just it is what it is. But let's move on to some fun stuff here. The Packers beat the shit out of the Lions, 35-17. It was a close game. Were they? No, they were.
It was 17-14 at halftime. The Lions had the lead.
They did. Okay, so it was 17-14. Then Green Bay comes out and scores 21 unanswered points.
Yeah.
I'll let you take it from here. Aaron Rodgers had a great game. Aaron Jones had a great game. And Jared Goff statistically had a good game, but he just got the pants ripped off of him.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jared Goff and the Lions, they looked really good in the first half. I mean, let's be honest, they looked like a playoff team in the first half. If it was blank uniforms, no name, no nothing, that looked like a playoff team in the first half. The second half, it started to rain a little bit more. Obviously, got a little later, got a little colder. The Lions just started to struggle. Goff was turning the ball over. He fumbled twice. Once he basically tried to – you remember when Manziel tried to throw the ball and it just falls out of his hand?
Yeah.
Jared had one of those moments. He had a fumbled snap moment. Just wasn't good second half for the Lions. Aaron Rodgers got his mojo back. We're looking good. I am so excited that Rodgers is looking good again. Aaron Jones balled out, had a couple touchdowns, 2 receiving, I think 2 rushing, 4 touchdowns total. Looked really, really good. And then also some contributors that weren't named Aaron, Cobb, Tunyon, and Adams all had fairly decent games. Tunyon only had, I think, 1 or 2 catches, but one of them ended up being a touchdown. Cobb finally starting to get some of that rhythm back with Rodgers. He had a few catches. And then Devontae Adams, let's be honest, he is one of the best receivers in football. In my mind, I think he is the best receiver in football. He hasn't had I'm the best receiver in football kind of a start to the season, but he has had a pretty decent, he had a pretty decent game this past week. Not bad, not best receiver in the league type of a
121 yards, not bad.
But no touchdowns, only 7%. But I think that's not a bad game. That's not a bad game for Adams.
Listen, that first week was a tough game. I don't know what happened with them, but whatever. The thing about it is that I was more impressed with them dusting it off and just going back and playing football.
Agreed.
And, the Lions – it's more about the Lions, too, because in week 1, they were getting the shit kicked out of them, and then they came back against San Francisco, and in this game, they were competitive, and then they lost it.
Yes.
It just seems like – but that happens with a new coach who's never coached before, where they will get it figured out. I don't think they're going to be there's going to be no problem with the division for the Packers, but – Jared Goff might actually have to help this team to be better in the future.
Yeah. Well, I like Dan Campbell. I know he's really aggressive, and I know a lot of people are a little scared of Dan Campbell, but I'm a really big fan of him. I think he's going to turn the Lions around, just like I think with Robert Saleh. You have to give it time because with where the Jets are and with where the Lions are, I like these head coaches. If you only give them 4 years, it's not going to work out. This is a 6-year project, I think. More than that.
Yeah,
it's going to take a long time.
Yeah, no, you're right. Anything else you want to say about them, or you're good?
Go Pack, go! Only up. We got the Niners. We got the Niners Sunday Night Football. So
it's going to be a good game. It should be. Is it in Green Bay or is it in San Francisco?
It's in California. Sadly, we always play that in California and Florida. So not excited.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, and Zadarius Smith isn't going to be. Yeah, you might have some trouble. Debo, well, no, because a guy like Debo Samuel is going to have Jair Alexander again.
Right. So, what I'm talking about is them running the football. Our run defense is not great. DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams had pretty good games yesterday. Not great games, but they ran the ball fine. Whenever they all obviously got behind in the second half, they couldn't run the ball much.
Yeah, but it's to me it's different every week, and I just think that with Jair shutting down, Mr. Debo, sky's kind of the limit there.
Do good, yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's,
The offense has to put up points.
Yeah.
The Niners are going to put up some points. We got to be able to put up points too. That's going to be a big question mark. So.
Very true. Next game we're talking about is the mighty Raiders beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh on the back of Derek Carr throwing for 382 yards. And the defense only allowing 17 points. They bend, but they did not break. Gus Bradley must have them the right way. I mean, it's true. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like the defense looks so much better than it did last year. And I think that's the big story is that the Raiders defense is getting to the quarterback. They might not be getting a ton of sacks, but Crosby, he ended up hurting Ben Roethlisberger because he was on the injury report. Solomon Thomas, who not a lot of people remember, was their third overall pick. Didn't really do well in San Francisco, but he comes out and has himself a 2-sack game, which is not bad at all. But yeah, it just seems like the defense is okay. We're in good shape. And, the other thing, too, I want to say is that we're doing well, and KJ Wright, a guy who's a great linebacker, is still not at running speed yet because he just came onto the team. Imagine when he's playing well as well, things might be even more scary with them. And, and I can't say enough about Derek Carr. I mean, Derek Carr, some of the throws that he's making is I can remember for the last 2 years, the Raider Nation, while I was doing live videos, were just being so angry at Carr for being Mr. Checkdown. And he is not Mr. Checkdown anymore. He's throwing as deep as he can. I mean, for Ruggs to have a 100-yard game, I'm so excited for him. I'm excited for Brian Edwards. I'm excited for Hunter Renfrow. And, all those guys are doing great, and we didn't need to run the ball that much. It was just – I think that John Gruden is finally just let Carr do what he's got to do.
Yeah. And
with the Steelers, it was just – they just didn't seem to have any urgency.
Yeah.
It just seemed like, it just seems like there was – Najee Harris didn't really run the ball well, but they were behind most of the game.
Right.
Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Juju, all guys that were, can be door breakers. And just the Raiders defense, I don't know if they were swarming them or what it was. I mean, they had a couple long passes, but they didn't give up touchdowns on it. They just, like I said, the only bad thing about the Raiders right now is Alex Leatherwood, the rookie they drafted in the first round, because he has been a liability because the Raiders should have scored 3 touchdowns and Carr should have had 3 touchdowns, but he had a holding call that was brutal right on the goal line. And Damon Arnett and Corey Littleton. I mean, but because Damon Arnett was out there for the 2 long passes and got beat twice.
Yeah.
It's just they're liabilities. They're liabilities, but it seems like the rest of the defense is doing what they need to do. And they're only allowing, 42 minus. So they only allowed 39 rushing yards the whole game.
Yeah.
And Roethlisberger only threw for 295. So they allowed just a little bit over 300. That's crazy from what the defense used to be.
Yeah. Well, I thought the Raiders looked really good, and Derek Carr, I think he looked great as well. Spread the ball out a little bit. Henry Ruggs starting to show why he was a top receiver taken in the draft. I still don't think he should have been the first receiver taken in the draft, but he's actually shown why he was a top first-round pick. Najee Harris picking it up a little bit compared to last week. Still not a great game for him. Not really a good game at all. Steelers didn't really play bad, but like you said, they just didn't look like they had a lot of energy. They kind of looked like they were stuck in the mud the entire game. Great game for Derek Carr. Great game for Derek Carr.
He's still, I love to say it, he is, I'm looking at the updated leaderboard, he is 138 yards ahead of everybody else in passing yards after 2 weeks. That's crazy. That's crazy.
I mean,
that's the thing.
Derek Carr win the MVP?
No, I don't think he can, because they never showed the Raiders any love. They never do. I mean, if he keeps up what he's doing, I mean, it's kind of hard for them not to give it to him.
Oh, but, yeah. If the Raiders keep winning, I mean, they're 2-0. Next week, who do they got next week?
The Dolphins.
The Dolphins? I mean, come on. They could be 3-0. Derek Carr can rip this defense up. Come on, man.
Dolphins have a decent defense, and and then Monday we have Monday Night Football against the Chargers.
Oh,
which is going to be, I think, a really good game. It's in LA, which doesn't matter for the Raiders because they have more fans there than the Chargers do.
Raiders, or not the Raiders, but the Chargers are starting to get a little bit more fans in the stands, but it's still low.
Yeah, and like I said, it's exciting to see the Raiders be 2-0. But it's also like they've always had great starts to their seasons the last couple of years, but they got to finish it. But this is a tough way to start your season. Ravens, Steelers, Dolphins, Chargers. If they come out of it 3-1, that's a damn good start in my opinion. Let's look at the comments a little bit because we had a lot of Raiders fans here. Victor Bauker says, I think Gus Bradley is doing wonders for the defense. I agree. Whiteside of Hassan for 3 says, what's up, Big Tuna? Tuna, go Raiders. Let's see what else we got. Max Crosby jersey has been ordered. Home car since rookie year. Away, can't wait. Yeah, I mean, Crosby, that's another thing, too. Not a lot of people talking about,
He's so underrated.
The problem is he's not getting the sacks, but if you watch his film alone, he is beating the shit out of these. I don't understand how he's not getting passing or the roughing the passer calls because he's licking into them. But I don't even know what is that anymore. Right. But it's just like he's there, and when Yannick Ngakoue didn't play that much because he is banged up, but if Solomon Thomas can come out and be that good as a backup, it's like, and I hate to say it, Raider Nation, but that Cleveland Furrow, he is just not going to be on the team next year. There's no way. He barely plays. He was on the field, I think, like 5 plays, and he was a number 4 overall pick. I could see him not even – a team will go try with him, but he's never going to be – he's probably one of the worst 4th overall picks ever. Yeah. And it's sad because it's just sad. But overall, Raiders are 2-0. Going to have a tough game against Miami, even if Tua's in there or not. But if the offense keeps humming, it's going to be a good day again. Yeah. And the defense keeps bending but not breaking. It could be a defensive game, though, too. Yeah. But Miami's got a decent defense as well. So we'll see what happens. Moving on to the afternoon games, the Vikings lose in a heartbreaker to the Cardinals, 34-33. If anyone didn't see it, the Vikings had a chance to win it at the end and they missed. It's just in my opinion, I don't know what Kirk Cousins has to do to win because he's doing everything he can. Right. And he's distributing the ball well. Thielen, Jefferson, Madison, and throwing it to this new kid, KJ Osborne, who was picked in the 5th round out of Miami. Dalvin Cook had himself a good game. It's just that defense is not what it used to be, and it's just giving up a ton of points. And you got to give your praise to Kyler, throwing for 400 yards. DeAndre Hopkins didn't have the greatest of games, yards-wise, so the rest of the team kind of stepped up. A.J. Green got himself a touchdown. Yeah. And Edmonds and Connor, they did okay. Yeah. And on the defensive side, they weren't that great either. To be honest, they let up 33 points. It was a game that I did not expect there to be this many points scored, but it was an actual fun game to watch.
Yeah, both of these offenses definitely came to play. Kirk Cousins had a great game, throwing touchdowns at Thielen and Jefferson this game. Murray and Hopkins, dude, that is a deadly, deadly duo. Like you said, yardage-wise, Hopkins didn't have that great of a game. Wasn't a bad game. The other weapons for the Cardinals did show out. A.J. Green, Rondale Moore both had good games.
Christian Kirk did well, too.
And Christian Kirk, too.
Texas A&M, baby.
Despite 2 bad picks, Kyler Murray is insane. He's awesome. He's got to be up there for MVP, too, right now. That's just what I was about to say is this guy could end up winning the MVP. I just feel so bad for Kirk Cousins. Had a stellar game. Just couldn't get it done. And talking about these defenses, obviously you give up 33 and 34 points. Not great games defensively. But in the 4th quarter, the defenses actually started to come around and play better late in this game. Just wasn't enough. Scoring 33 points and losing, that's tough. That is tough. But one big thing I did like about this game more than anything is that Gus Johnson was calling it. I love Gus Johnson. He is awesome.
I hated him in the beginning, but I love him now.
He's hard to get used to because he's so intense, but he's definitely better for college football because college football is that intense. Mm-hmm. But I love Gus Johnson.
Chandler Jones didn't have a sack this week though. which was disappointing.
Really?
I thought he was going to get at least one. And
I thought he was going to have a good week. I thought he was going to get some sacks.
And J.J. Watt still non-existent, but we had to expect that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Dalvin Cook, once again, one of the best runners out there that doesn't get as much praise as others.
Yeah.
That he deserves. And
it's hard being a Packers fan because I really don't think Dalvin Cook is that good. And I know he's that good. But as a Packers fan, I'm just like, nah, Aaron Jones is better. Aaron Jones is better. But
you know what? I'll say this. Aaron Jones has a better nose for the end zone than Dalvin Cook. Seems like Dalvin Cook just runs forever, but can't get into the end zone. It's weird, very weird. But you're right. I think Aaron Jones has a better sniff of the end zone. But then, it's like I don't know why. We're going back to the Packers real quick. I don't know why they got rid of Jamal Williams and kept A.J. Dillon.
So what it was, I think it was going into that draft and going into the season, Williams and Jones were both on contract years. So they drafted Dillon basically saying, one of y'all is going to get a contract, the other one's going to leave, and Dillon's going to be the guy.
Well, Bradder thought that they were both going to leave. I was very surprised.
I thought they were both going to leave too, but I thought Jones was not going to re-sign, and Williams was going to become the two-back. Dillon would become the one-back. Well, Jones re-signed, and as soon as he re-signed, we knew Jamal Williams was out.
Yeah. Funny he went right to Detroit because that's what they do. When they get hurt, they go
to Jamal Williams. He's so funny. He's a great personality.
Oh, that was when they showed that little thing about him saying they wined and dined me, blah blah blah. That was funny.
Yeah, that was funny. I did like that. And then he's got like his own 4-minute show a week with the Lions, and it's pretty funny too. So I love Jamal Williams, man. That was tough.
Yeah. Next game, the score does not listen. The Falcons lose to the Bucs 48-25. In the third quarter, it was 25-28. Right. But the fourth quarter, the Falcons just fell apart.
Yeah.
And they ended up giving up 2 defensive touchdowns to the same guy who intercepted the ball twice, Mike Edwards there. But overall, the Falcons were in the game until the end. Yeah. And it was just unfortunately, it was just Atlanta is Atlanta, and it sucks. But I thought Matt Ryan had a good game from what I saw. Tom Brady is being Tom Brady. It's just that Matt Ryan doesn't have much of a offensive line there anymore. But Pitts is turning into a catching machine. Ridley's doing a good job. And Cordero Patterson, once again, is showing how versatile he is on whatever team he goes on. I loved him when he was on the Raiders. I'm sad that he isn't a Raider anymore, but he's done it for New England. He's done it for the Bears. He's done it for Minnesota. He's done it for this team now. He did it for the Raiders. It's crazy how versatile he is. But, like I said, and Josh Rosen got to play a little bit too.
Oh,
Josh Rosen was playing for my Atlanta. I didn't know that.
I didn't see that, but yeah, I mean, this was honestly not that bad of a game. The Falcons did end up making it a game. They had their moments. They looked good at times. They're just not a very good football team. They almost started comeback, but Brady just kept throwing touchdowns. He threw 5 touchdowns on Sunday. Looking good. Brady looks good. Gronk.
Yeah, he's at 9 after 2 games. Get the hell out of here. Could you imagine if he breaks Peyton Manning's record at 40-4?
Yeah, 40 years old, throwing 9 touchdowns.
He's on pace right now to throw, 8 times 9? 72 touchdowns.
No. What? Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, because it's 8 times 6, 8 times 9 is 72 and a half. So it's 76 and a half he's on pace for? That's disgusting. He won't do it, but I'm just saying, Peyton Manning is 55? Like, he's on pace for it. Why would he not? And what's stopping him right now?
Right.
The defense is great. They did well. You know what? The defense didn't play that great this game.
Right.
But if they need to run the ball, they will. They've got Jones. They've got Fournette. You know, and it's just crazy because it's like, okay, so Mike Evans is covered. Let's throw it to Godwin. If Godwin's covered, let's throw it to Gronk. If Gronk is covered, let's throw it to O.J. Howard. If O.J. Howard is covered, let's throw it to Cameron Brate. And oh yeah, if he's covered, let's throw it to fucking Antonio Brown. Like, that's disgusting.
It's honestly not fair. It's just not fair. What's
As a Packers fan, I would hate it because it's like, how do you even think they're going to lose? Like, it's like, how do you think that they remind me this roster reminds me so much of the Packers or the Patriots when they went undefeated.
Yeah. I think they lose this week to the Rams.
What's that?
I think that the Buccaneers lose this week.
Oh, they're not going to go undefeated just because Gronk is old and everybody's a little bit older. But I'm just saying that, you know, it's crazy to go down the receiving tree that they have to go down.
They're so good.
It's just like, and I forgot that O.J. Howard was still. How do they afford O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, Antonio Brown?
I think O.J. Howard's going to be heading into a contract year. I think this.
Well, no, I think that they're all both. Well, no, I honestly think that after this year, Brady might retire, and that means Gronk will retire, and they'll end up signing O.J. Howard back. But in my opinion, it's like, you know, how do you stop something like this? It's just, you can't. And it's so funny. It's like, well, how do they always win? Let me tell you how they always win and how they can keep this team together. It's because they all take pay cuts. They're not like Dak Prescott, who takes $40 million. That's a lot of money to take out of the salary cap. Tom Brady, I don't think, makes crazy amount of money. Neither does Gronk. It's because they want to win championships. And that's exactly what they did to the Patriots. That's how you win. That's how you keep it all together. It's just, it's like the blueprint is right there, and teams still don't do it, and players still don't see it.
Yeah,
and it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting how good that team can be with just ugh. All right, let's move on to it before I get even more sick. Yeah, like I said, thank God I'm not an NFC fan, because I would be like, what's the fucking point of even playing? You know, obviously they might make the playoffs, but it's really tough to not say they're not going to be that good.
We can take them.
You might. I mean, that's the thing, though. Your defense, your offense is the same way. You know, the receiving tree is there where it's like, okay, if Adams is covered, you've got Tunyon. Tunyon's covered, you've got MVS. If MVS is covered, you got Lazard. If you got Lazard is covered, you've got Cobb. If Cobb is covered, you got Aaron Jones.
Right.
You know, it's just like the receiving tree is what's, you know, important. This game pissed me off. Dallas went to the Chargers to win 2017.
Here for this.
Huh?
I said I'm glad that the Dan is here for this. He's a Cowboys fan. He showed up just in time.
Well, I just want to say that I think the Cowboys paid off the refs because it was very weird play call. It was very weird penalties, but they came out to play. They did. They played a good game offensively. The refs helped them a little bit, but, you know, it's just when you have Dak throwing for 237 and you have Pollard, not Elliott, Pollard, 100 yards. Yeah.
Touchdown. Come on.
Yeah, and a touchdown. You got both of them going to touchdown. CeeDee Lamb with 8 catches. You know, Cooper didn't do much and all that, but it's just they shut down that Chargers offense, and it's really hard to do that. And they intercepted Herbert twice, which is tough to do, you know. And Micah Parsons got himself a sack, who I think he's going to be like a Khalil Mack type guy, who's just going to be a freak.
Yeah, back to all of. Well, as far as this game goes, I mean, Herbert and Dak, despite the 2 picks that Herbert threw, they both played decent games.
Oh, yeah, of course they did.
Not bad games, but not you know what I mean? Pretty decent games. As far as the refs go, they were bad on both sides. They were definitely worse to the Chargers. I'm not saying the Chargers would have won. I'm not saying they robbed the Chargers. I mean, they definitely robbed the Chargers out of some touchdowns. They really robbed us, the fans, out of a good game. That would have been an amazing. That probably would have been game of the week. Obviously, Sunday Night Football was game of the week. This would have been probably the second best game of the week. The refs were they had complete control of this game on both sides. But yeah, the Cowboys did look good nonetheless. They're 1-1 right now. Their defense was huge. Stopped Herbert from having an amazing game. Pollard was the star of the show.
Yeah.
Overall, not a bad game, but man, the refs really did ruin this one.
I will say this too. On the Chargers side, both Allen and Williams are becoming a deadly duo, especially Williams. Williams has done very well the last few games, and it's about time because he was picked very high in the draft, But it sucks when you go to a game and you have to bitch about the refs. But overall, I was really surprised that the Cowboys were even in this game.
Yeah.
I really thought
the Cowboys are good. A lot of people don't know, but the Cowboys are a really good football team.
That's what I was just gonna say is that they've been competitive, and now
they could have beaten the Bucs. They could have beaten the Bucs. They beat the Chargers, and I definitely think those calls weren't all 100% legit, but the Cowboys are a legit football team. So I'm not saying the Chargers would have won if they got some of those calls. The Cowboys are a really good football team. Really.
All I'm gonna say is that if the Cowboys can keep consistent with their play, and of course every team has a hiccup here or there, they'll run away with this division.
Oh, I have them winning.
They might win it by the 10th week.
I think they'll win it by the 8th.
It's sad to say it, but it's true. I thought Washington would be a little bit of a better foe, but
I think Washington had a lot of magic last year. I don't even think they were the best team in the division.
No, I just think Alex Smith got them to the promised land.
Alex Smith brought the magic to that team.
Yeah, and for me, it's just that Dallas, if they continue to play like this, they surprise the hell out of me. Good for them, because I've never been a Dak fan.
Right.
Which is that's me. I've never been a Dak fan.
Not a lot of people are.
But he's throwing the ball well, in my opinion. And if he keeps doing what he's doing, Dallas is a good team, and they'll consistently continue to play like this. The sky is the limit for them. They could be one of those teams that gets into the playoffs, no one gives them a shot, and they come out and make it all the way to the divisional round.
That could happen. I would not be surprised if the Cowboys had a really good season, had a pretty decent playoff run, and maybe I hate to say it, but maybe even make it the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? That would be crazy.
Especially if they can get Pollard and Elliott to be that nice duo, 1-2 combo. That would be nice for them.
If they can pick it up, then they're going to be really dangerous.
Because Zeke's getting old, and it's nice to see Pollard because now Cowboys fans are like, okay, we got a guy that can give this kid a rest, and go on from there. So that's never bad. Next game we got another game that didn't go into overtime, which was. Listen, Derrick Henry had a great game, but I was very surprised by the way Tennessee came back. I thought Tennessee was done. They were down at one point, I believe, 24-9 or 24 to some, and then they had themselves a great fourth quarter, which was, all Derrick Henry. I'm very disappointed with the way the Seahawks finished that game. Yeah. They should have won that game outright. Tannehill played well. Henry killed it, but they ran 75 plays.
Yeah.
That's why Seattle lost, because they were probably drained on defense. And, if you got your quarterback throwing 30, 40 times, you got your running back running it 35 times.
Yeah.
That's just disgusting. But we talked about last week, and I'm going to continue to say it. This team is only going to be as good as Derrick Henry is.
Agreed. And they were great this week, especially in the fourth quarter. Obviously, they were down early. They were down big early. Tyler Lockett is absolutely he's insane. He's making crazy catches every time he steps on the field. Once Wilson is still cooking, he's honestly my MVP right now. Derrick Henry obviously woke up in the fourth quarter, and Julio Jones kind of turned back the clock as well. He had a pretty good game. This really comes down to Derrick Henry had a great fourth quarter, but the Seahawks absolutely folded. They folded. They should have won this game. There is no excuse. They should have won this game. And honestly, both of these O-lines need to be better. That's a big point of emphasis I want to make, is that both of these O-lines need to play better. Both quarterbacks were pressured all game.
Mm-hmm.
So, but overall, the Seahawks shouldn't have lost this game. I still think that they're a top-tier team in the league. They're going to compete for that division. I don't think they're going to win it. It's a really good division. I still think they'll make playoffs as a wild card. But, yeah, the Titans, that's a huge win for the Titans. Because if they don't win this game, they drop to 0-2, and they play the Colts next week, and they would both be 0-2. This was a huge win for the Titans. And Derrick Henry played great. Like you said, they're only going to be as good as him. He had a great fourth quarter, so the team had a great fourth quarter. That's why they won the game.
Especially, too, that, they were in Seattle. It wasn't like they were at Tennessee. They were in Seattle, and that's a tough place to play. But I also wanted to mention, too, Lockett's great, Metcalf's great, but this Swain kid kind of came out of nowhere. But if they can have 3 good receivers, then, once again for Russell Wilson, sky's the limit.
Right.
Problem is with them is that they never, since Marshawn Lynch has left, they have not had a running game.
Right. When Chris Carson had a good game last
week. 3 touchdowns, yeah, but it was just like they only had like 40 yards rushing.
Right.
Which is just, I don't know.
More than that, yeah.
Well, the Sunday night game was fun to watch.
What game.
Baltimore had 12 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Baltimore also started the game with a pick 6 that Lamar Jackson threw to Tyrann Mathieu. And they ended the game with 2 rushing touchdowns by Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson had a pretty rough game on Monday night last week. This week, he really, honestly, I hate to say this, but he really didn't. Statistically, he had 100 yards rushing. He had 239 yards passing. But he threw 2 interceptions, and he only had 1 touchdown thrown. The running backs were running back by committee with Latavius Murray, Devonta Freeman, and Tyson Williams. It looks like Tyson Williams is going to be the starter, but I think they're going to rotate. They're going to have a nice 3-headed monster there,
Yeah.
And on the Kansas City side, Patrick Mahomes doing what he does, 3 touchdowns, an interception, 343. Kelsey,
did you
Robinson and Pringle. The only guy that really didn't play well that usually does was Tyreek Hill. He was covered pretty good by Marlon Humphrey there.
Yeah, well, overall, this was the best and the biggest game of the week. You're looking at 2 teams that, honestly, I think can compete for a Super Bowl. Obviously, we know that the Chiefs are going to compete for the Super Bowl. But I think the Ravens have a really good shot at going to the Super Bowl this year. So this was a huge game for both of these teams, and it was the best game of the week. Lamar and Mahomes. I think Lamar Jackson balled out. I know he only had 200 yards passing, and he did throw 2 picks, one of them being a pick 6. But to run for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 clutch touchdowns at the end of the game, and that huge first down that he had, that's a pretty good game in my eyes. Passing the ball wasn't great, but overall, not a bad game for Lamar. Harbaugh makes a very risky call on that 4th down. Personally, even though they got it, I would not have done that. I would have punted. You're looking at 40 seconds. That's enough for 2 plays if you don't get out of bounds. That's 4 or 5 plays if you can get out of bounds. And they're on their own 40-yard line. So they would be giving Mahomes great field position. They don't have a bad kicker. Kansas City doesn't anyway. I would have punted it, but very risky call. It did pay off. Just dumb turnovers lost this game for the Chiefs. The Chiefs very easily could have won this game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had that fumble. That was big time. But I really think about the Patrick Mahomes interception. He's rolling out. He's kind of getting pressured. He's falling to the ground. And he's just trying to do too much. And it kind of bit him in the ass, and he threw a pick. That's where I put not the blame on, but I think that turnover was honestly bigger than the Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumble. Because that gave the Ravens a lot of momentum whenever he threw that dumb pick.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, I was going to say is that, listen, the reason that John Harbaugh went for it is because 15 is on the other side.
Right.
And it's really tough to give a guy the ball that's that good. It's like giving it to Tom Brady almost. It's like Mahomes has done everything right where it's like, how can you give him the ball?
Right.
Because it's like, of course they'll get out of bounds. It's just. But then again, their deep threat, Tyreek Hill, did not have himself a good game, but because he was covered by one of the best corners in the league. And it's just, to me, it was just a game like this showed me that maybe Kansas City is not as good as people are saying. It makes me figure that, like, if the Raiders could play good, Broncos and the Chargers all could beat them. Before it was like the gap was like this.
Right.
But now the gap.
I think the Chiefs are getting figured out too. If you put the pressure on Mahomes and you have maybe even double coverage against Tyreek Hill, it's a very beatable team. You have to put points up, though. It doesn't matter what you do defensively. The Chiefs are going to score. If you can put up, you have a shot to beat this team.
Well, the other thing, too, is that, like, Tyreek Hill has always been coverable. But, Kelsey's going to get his yards. And that's just the long and the short of it. But, it's like, okay, honestly and truly, like, after Tyreek Hill, they've got Pringle, they've got Hardman, they've got Robinson, but their tree is not as good as the rest, but they rely on 10 and 87 to be that good. But I do think that the AFC, where the Chiefs were last year compared to now, it's getting closer. Right. And it's exciting for all AFC fans because it's tough. It's like it was like when Tom Brady left, everyone was excited, but then Patrick Mahomes came back. It was like, and then Patrick Mahomes came in. And it's like, God, is this going to be another? And he's not like Brady in some ways, but he is like Brady in others. But I just think that the gap is closing. I think that John Harbaugh made the right call. I wouldn't have done it, but he made the right call there.
The play was the right play to call.
Yeah,
that was a mastermind. That was an awesome play that they called. The decision I don't agree with. Obviously, it did pay off. That's why he's coaching and I'm talking about the game.
Yeah,
but great play. That was, if you're going to make that call, that's the play call that you want to roll with. And I'm glad that they chose that play. I was going for the Ravens. I picked them to win.
Yeah. No, did you? How'd you do in your picks?
I went 10-4.
10-4. Good job.
Or no, 12-4. 12-4. 10-4.
12-4.
Yeah. I know I had 4 losses. My losses were, let me see who my losses were.
One had to be.
I picked the Steelers to beat the Raiders.
You had to pick the Saints.
I did pick the Saints. I picked
Seattle.
And I picked the Chargers.
I was about to say, I knew it. They were those games were so easy to find. You know what I'm saying? That the ones that you knew the people gambling lost because they were because of the way they played one week to the other.
But did you see the guy who had the 16-game parlay? He bet it on every single game, put $25 in it, right? Put $25 in the whole thing, 16-game parlay. Ended up winning every single game. Monday Night Football comes. If he wins, he gets like $200,000, almost $3,000.
He played the Lions.
He picked the Lions.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Like, why? Why?
Yeah, especially they're a 12-point dog. Like, Jesus. And he played them all money line, which is just even weirder that he thought they were going to win outright. Like, I'm sorry, but they had one bad game. You think the Chargers are going to fall apart like that? Like, no. No. In the first half, he was happy. He was happy, but, other than that.
Nate S is disappointed because I picked the Chargers to because I know obviously a lot of Raiders fans are watching.
I think Nate is a Cowboys fan, to be honest with you.
Okay. But no, I picked the Chargers. I thought the Chargers were gonna win.
I like what this guy says. Lamar has way too many bad throws, which is watching his game against Las Vegas, he makes some bad throws. They just don't look like when you can't hit a check down the way he was, it was like, wow, okay. But that was his downfall in college. Like everyone thought he wasn't going to get picked very high because of his throwing ability. He didn't have it, and it's just like, okay, we'll see what happens. But, overall, Ravens are 1-1, Chiefs are 1-1. And the Broncos and the Raiders are on top of the AFC West, which is just crazy to think it's not the Chargers and the Chiefs because everybody probably has a Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders. Right. And right now it's Broncos Raiders, which honestly the Broncos have beaten the Jaguars.
We're good.
And the who else did they beat? They beat another not good, and the Giants. The Raiders have beaten the Ravens and the Steelers. Like obviously they look a little bit better than what the Broncos have done. But that's our show. Next week it's going to be a little bit different because we're going to actually do it on Monday night.
One less game, yeah.
Because we're going to have one less game because one of our teams isn't in it. But if you guys like the Tuesday format, let us know. If not, we're going to start it on Monday. But then the next week, we're going to go right back to Tuesday because the Raiders play on Monday night. So we'll see you guys soon. Have a great rest of your week. Mike, got something to say?
Yeah, I was going to say 4 weeks in a row, maybe even 5, but I know 4 weeks in a row, one of our teams had prime time. Week 1, you guys had Monday night. Week 2, we had Monday night. Week 3, we have Sunday night.
Yep.
In week 4, you guys have Monday night again.
Yep.
That's all I wanted to say.
Anyone to shout out to about the picks or anything like you said last week?
Yeah, so I did say it last week or this past week when I was doing predictions for week 2, but I want to say it to the live. Shout out to my guy Colby Vetter. He came on the YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel, and we did predictions for week 1. I had a pretty bad week. I went 7-9. He went 10-6. He beat me on my own channel, so big ups to my guy Colby. Week 2, I did much better. I didn't have a guest, but I did much better week 2 though. So
there you go. But like I said, if you guys want to get a hold of us, you can always find us on Mykel Sports and Bigger and Brighter Sports. Give us a follow there. I am at Big Tuna BBS on Twitter and at Bigger and Brighter Sports on Instagram. And Mike, where are you at?
My Instagram is at Mykel Sports _YouTube, and my Twitter is at Mykel Sports. I'm really active on Twitter. Instagram, just a little bit. Really active on Twitter. So
yeah, no, he is. He's very active on Twitter. I love that photo you made of us. I don't know why you put me as Michael Jordan, but whatever. Yeah, you guys have a good rest of your week. We'll see you next week. Enjoy all the football, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Sorry, see y'all.